Alright, here we go again, episode 46 of the Plant Zoo Experience, and today we're talking about Cuvier's Dwarf Caiman. Before we get into this, obviously, as you can tell by my voice, I am a bit under the weather, so I do apologize if I sound a bit strange. But, let's get into the video. As you can see, we are making a bit of a stone structure to begin with, and that's because we're going to be essentially making a pond that is a part of a runoff river. Now, as time goes on, it will start to take more form, as it usually does with these exhibits, but I assure you it does have a phenomenal outcome. Now, as per usual, we're going to start off with the name of the animal, and this one actually has quite a few, other than the one we know it as Cuvier's Dwarf Caiman. It is also known as the Musky Caiman, the Smooth-Fronted Caiman, and the Wedge-Head Caiman. Now, it does share the Smooth-Faced Caiman name with another species, the Schneider's Dwarf Caiman, which those two are the only two living species in the Paleosuchus family. Now, speaking of the scientific name of our caiman in question is Paleosuchus palpebrosus, essentially meaning ancient crocodile and eyelid and full of. That last term essentially meaning the very large crests above the eyes of the dwarf caiman. Now, the Paleosuchus, obviously, of old crocodile, it is first thought to be one of the oldest species of crocodilians in the world. However, that was an old assumption, and it most likely isn't true anymore. But since how all crocodilians are extremely old, it's hard to really pinpoint the oldest. As said in the thumbnail, this is the smallest living crocodilian, unless, of course, you count the Congo dwarf crocodile, which is debatable. There is still ongoing disputes about whether it's its own species and whether or not it is something smaller than our dwarf caiman. However, for the time being, we are going to call it the world's smallest crocodilian. Now, while it is a crocodilian, it is a caiman, which most people may not be aware of what that is. That is the main species of South American crocodilian, and is closer related to alligators than crocodiles. However, there is a scientific difference, that being the alligator having a separation of the nasal cavity, while the caiman does not. It is one solid whole. Now, the Cuvier's dwarf caiman reaches only 11 to 15 pounds and having a length of 4 to 5 feet. Now, it is considered a keystone species in its habitat. I believe I have brought up the idea of a keystone species before. However, let's discuss how this one might be different from something like the prairie dog. So, the Cuvier's dwarf caiman is extremely common all throughout the Amazonian river system and the Amazon jungle as a whole. This means they control the population of a lot of different fish and small mammalian and reptilian species. For example, if a population of dwarf caiman are removed from any one river system or freshwater lake system, it could cause the piranha population or other predatory fish population to skyrocket out of a safe and controlled quantity. And on top of that, you then have to consider the animals that prey upon it. As a young baby caiman, they're preyed on by damn near everything, from rats to large fish to other caimans. As an adult, they're still preyed upon, but they'd be too large for any of its old foes. Now it would be more susceptible to things like the anaconda, boa constrictor, and jaguar. And because of that, they are a key source of food for many of those animals. Interestingly enough, though, while they are preyed on by damn near every predator at some point in their lives, one predator they don't have quite as much of a problem as most other animals do when dealing with it, and that would be humans. Now, yes, lots of peoples in places like Guyana and Brazil will hunt the caiman. However, comparatively, it doesn't see as much hunting in the way of poaching. And the reason for that is they're extremely hard and tough hides. As a matter of fact, it was sometimes compared to as a turtle shell with its durability. Now, is it as strong as a turtle shell? No. But due to the very dense scutes that they have, that all crocodilians have, but are significantly stronger on the dwarf caiman, it's very difficult to actually tan the hide to make the stereotypical gator skin apparel, which pretty much, and plus with its size, most people would rather go after the black caiman, American alligator, or any form of crocodilian that has an easier hide to handle, which is one of the reasons that this is a least concerned species. There's not a lot of overhunting, it's not really worth poaching, and lucky for them, they can thrive pretty well in most water types. They prefer fast-moving river systems, but they've been seen in overflown grasslands, even some real dingy, dirty, muddy waters. So, with all that, now let's also discuss about some of the other things that are different about this creature. We've talked about the pelt being much more dense and stronger. However, there's one other big thing that makes them different, or a lot of other crocodilians, and that is their head shape. As you can see, they have a very bulbous head, more dome-like than flat compared to things like alligators and crocodiles, and even other caimans like the black caiman. They just don't look the same. That, with their sloped snout and bulbous tip of the nose that sort of flares upright, giving it almost a dog-like appearance, it is certainly a species that stands out compared to other crocodilians. Now, a lesser seen side of them that is also very unique is the fact that they're thought to have one of the most acidic stomach acids out of every vertebrate. Now, there are a few that are even more acidic, but it does appear that the Cuvier's dwarf caiman has one of the highest acidity grades for stomach acids. Don't know what information you could use that for, but hey, it's a little bit interesting, ain't it? Now, on top of all that, they also have a very pronounced upper jaw, sticking further out than even what is usual for other crocodilian species. I'm saying crocodilian a lot, but there's really no other way to put it because crocodiles are weird when it comes to their ancestry. Speaking of, let's jump into their ancestry, shall we? So, as we all know, crocodilians are old. Very, very old. And to give you an idea, caimans are probably the most recent branch of crocodilian species. They branched off from the alligator line during the Cretaceous period, roughly 60 to 70 million years ago. Now, the Paleosuchus family, being both of the dwarf caiman species, had branched off from them roughly 40 million years ago. So, as you can see, even though they're the most recent, they are extremely old. And I'll give you some perspective once I explain when Cuvier's dwarf caiman came about. And that was roughly 10 to 15 million years ago. To give you an idea, at this point in time, our species' evolution, Homo sapien did not exist. As a matter of fact, not only did humans not exist, the first ape species to walk upright had yet to evolve. We were still ground-dwelling apes, similar to that of chimpanzees. Now, before I get into the modern importance of this animal, let me discuss what we're doing here in the exhibit. So, as you can see, I am trying to make these rapids look good. Now, there is a rapids tool in the game, however, it's flat for some reason, and it doesn't have any sort of downward slope that you can accurately apply to it. So we're going to use the waterfall effect, and we're going to use it in abundance. Now, some of you may not be aware, but if you take the waterfall tool or any other tool of moving water and you tilt it, it will put it at an angle. For instance, in this case, instead of it just coming straight down, I put it at an angle so it comes up and down a little bit, giving it a more rushing appearance. And then adding the rapid splashes up along the ways there to pretty much cover up the rest of the ugly bits of it. Then adding the rapid foam at the bottom to show the water flowing into it instead of just dropping down from a height. With that in addition, on the other end, we're going to do something similar, having it trickle down the rocks into this extended section here, covering up the glass that is keeping the water in. So as you can see, there is a very nice bit of water-based tools you can use to help you add a very nice aesthetic to any exhibit you've got, especially if you have a semi-aquatic animal. Now, I just have a little bit of cleaning I need to do, but as I do that, let's discuss the unfortunate lacking of cultural influence that the Cuvier Dwarf Caiman has. You see, unfortunately, unlike with a lot of other animals we've spoken about in this series, there isn't a lot that I could find when it comes to this animal in particular. Of course, there's, omens and warnings and all that of caimans in general, but most of the mythology in the Amazon rainforest when it comes to crocodilians has to do with the black caiman. Dwarf caimans don't really get too much. The only sort of cultural folklore I was able to find has to do with the fact that some tribes will use the teeth of the dwarf caiman as sort of a defensive measure for snake bites. Allegedly speaking, the snakes will not bite you if you wear the teeth of the dwarf caiman. But other than that, there isn't too much I have found. So let me try to fill up this time with a little bit of information about another form of cultural interaction that we as people have with this animal, and that is as a pet. As a matter of fact, this is probably one of, if not the only crocodilian species that you can have as a pet. Granted, it is an expensive pet to have, seeing how that you have to have a very decent sized enclosure for it. I mean, think of it this way. Look how large this exhibit I just made for these animals, and I'm just barely got enough space. Such a close niche here. I wanted to actually add some more rocks so that they have more land, because I just kind of messed that up. But to give you an idea, I mean, a basic fish pond is not going to work. If you want this animal, not to mention you have to keep it warm. So if you live in if you live in an environment that's cold, you're gonna need to keep it inside pretty much all the time with heat lamps. Feeding it is not gonna be too difficult, but I mean, it is essentially the size of a medium dog, and it only eats meat. So you probably aren't exactly finding kibble for this thing. In addition, the odds of your local veterinary clinic being able to take care of this animal if it gets sick or needs some kind of routine health measures done, odds are not good. But if you are able to overcome these obstacles of being able to take care of it, being able to afford it, and having a vet that's able to take care of it when there is a medical issue, it is known to be a very good pet. Probably the best crocodilian species you could have as a pet. Not that that's a very hard bar to hit, seeing as how most crocodilians aren't exactly keen on being kept. But I'm so sorry, I'm slowly losing my voice. But there's one fun fact left that does make it a very safe pet to have, and that's the fact that despite it being the most famous thing about crocodilians. The Cuvier's Dwarf Caiman is the only crocodilian that, to our knowledge, does not perform the infamous death roll. Combine that with their size, and you realize that getting bit by one of these guys, it's going to hurt. It will draw blood. But you might keep your hand. You might be able to get away and just go, you little bastard. Wrap that up, go see a doctor, and you'll be right as rain. So, with all that said and done, here's our exhibit. I do appreciate you sticking around, even though I sound like a 40-year chain smoker at the moment. But if you did enjoy the video, please like, share, subscribe. And as I have been saying, I will say it once more. New Year's Eve and a New Year's Day, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. American Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a live stream where I will be A, playing Planet Zoo, B, doing some drawing, C, maybe some other games, I don't know, but it's also going to be a Q&A, and at the end of it all, there will be a very special video for all of you. I am also going to be raising money for my local zoo and game preserve. You don't need to donate, but it is very much appreciated if you do, and if you just want to come by, say hi, maybe ask some questions. I do hope I get the time zones. I do hope I pass through most of the time zones for you guys for New Year's, and I would love to see you there. Anyway, thank you for watching. Go outside, touch grass, drink water, hug your loved ones, and bye-bye.